The Obzon Tesa build of Obzon Company. We'll see. This is their attempt to bring Obzon Company into the Eldrazi metagame. Question is if it still has gained its affinity. To be fair, the Eldrazi Winter metagame does feature, I think, affinity as the supporting cast. You know, it is the second biggest deck in the format by far.
Yeah, we've seen affinity on camera a few times today already. It's a deck that certainly hasn't gotten worse lately.
Well, turning from Tyler will be a Drum, an Ornithopter, and a Vault Scourge. We go back to Hawkins. Just starting off on a pair of lands.
A pair of foil lands. Foil Verdant Catacombs we see here.
It's very nice.
Not Expedition, so that we know what they are. That's
yeah, we do appreciate that.
Very generous choice by you, Eric.
Let's go back over to Tyler. See what kind of attack he'll have. 3 mana. And he'll wait just a swing of 1 by Vault Scourge to start. One thing Affinity decks have moved over is they've all seemed to move over to Master of Ethereum and away from Etched Champion. I have to imagine that's a response to the Eldrazi metagame.
Absolutely. And it looked like Winn had a Master of Ethereum. That's what he was thinking about with the 3 mana. Instead, 2 Signal Pest will generate more damage over the course of this turn and the next turn.
Hawkins will fetch on end step. Can he keep pace with this aerial assault from Tyler? A Lingering Souls would do well here, with the exception if Tyler does have that Master of Ethereum.
Right, the Lingering Souls on its face looks quite powerful. Eric undoubtedly picked up on the fact that Tyler was thinking about spending 3 mana there, so you can probably sniff out the Master, although it's unclear what kind of options that he actually has here.
No plays on the first 2 turns is very unusual for a Company deck.
Yeah, these decks, they tend to have a bunch of Birds of Paradise. He has Blood Artists, he has Painter Servants. Not even a removal spell, something like Abrupt Decay, though those aren't actually in his deck, it looks like.
Yeah, it does not have Abrupt Decay today. Be interesting to look at a sideboard, a 14-card sideboard.
You couldn't find the 4th Tesa for the sideboard, or what do you think that the problem is there?
There's lots of options. We'll get to that in a bit. He's going to fetch for his 3rd land. We'll see if it's Lingering Souls coming out here. Also cards that he has at 3 mana. Copies of Kitchen Finks. And it will be Lingering Souls for Eric. So, as long as Tyler doesn't have that Master of Ethereum you're mentioning, this is a pretty potent turn for Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. The Spirit tokens would trade with the Signal Pest as things stand if they attacked in, but that's a very positive trade for Eric.
Yeah, they trade with Vault Scourge, they trade with Signal Pest. Does Tyler have the Lord? Yes, he does. Master of Ethereum. Now the math on this changes in a hurry. So the Signal Pests are now 1/2s. The Vault Scourge 2/2. And that's before Battlecry triggers, pumping everything.
Yep, Vault Scourge is going to have 4 power at the end of that. Ornithopter will have 3, and he'll have a pair of 2/2 Signal Pests. Eric has his choice of trading the 2 spirits with any of Vault Scourge or Signal Pests. This is a tough spot. It really boils down to whether or not he has mastered the Master of Ethereum. I feel like if we can't get that off the table, it doesn't really matter what we do.
See if he wants to just chump with them or try to trade with something. He can go 2 in front of Vault Scourge. They would go trade with Vault Scourge. He can go 1 in front of Signal Pest. It looks like he's just going to chump block the Vault Scourge.
Chump blocking is a very curious choice here. I suppose he's still taking 7s, the difference between 7 and 11.
Well, each of the Signal Pests is for 2. Yep, and the Ornithopter's for 3. So he goes to 10, loses 1 spirit. If he could assemble his Painter Servant combo, that would be able to win from here. He does not have much time to do it, though.
No.
Gavany Township is the 4th land from Hawkins.
So if he has something like Flashback Lingering Souls, has a relevant 2-drop on top of that, then next turn he'd be able to get Painter Servant and Tesa into play. He needs additional bodies to make this combo work. You need to be able to keep the Painter and keep the Tesa and then have 3 other creatures to sacrifice. Looks like he has a Collected Company in hand. It's unclear what the best hits are for him. He's still going to be 1 card away from hitting any kind of combo here.
Yeah, even if he hits 2 good... I mean, he could Collected Company into something like Kitchen Finks and Malira. Perhaps try to... he can try to hit the Malira combo over the course of a chump block and a collected company.
Yeah, and then the Kitchen Finks would give you a good blocker against the Master of Ethereum, so you'd save some life there.
Right, company is his main face play. He'll hit Kitchen Finks and Anafenza Kindry Spirit, so that will do a lot of work.
Yeah, if he can untap and get a Viscera Seer, then he'll have this game locked up. If Tyler has an answer to Anafenza, this might just be lights out for Eric, though.
Blink Moth from Tyler. Can Eric take this one home? On the ground, the Master of Ethereum cannot do anything here. He'll get blocked by the Kitchen Finks, which will persist back, and then bolster. The Spirit can chump block, so Hawkins should get an untap here.
Yeah, it's looking like it. I believe that the card in Tyler's hand is Cranial Plating, and there it is coming into play, but that doesn't allow him to punch through anything. The Spirit token is still a chump blocker for whatever it is the most power. He does have the option to use Glimmer Void and Springleaf Drum to move the plating after blocks are declared.
And that might be enough, actually.
So we have 4 power in the Volt Scourge. The Ornithopter is obviously getting blocked as it's currently wearing the plating.
Yes, he's going to instant speed move the plating. And that should be enough. Each of those Vault Scourges swings for 2. Each of the Signal Pests is for 2. The Vault Scourge should be for 8.
I think that the Vault Scourge is 10 on its own, and then there's 2 Signal Pests on top of it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total artifacts. Vault Scourge is 8. Master of Ethereum's 9.
And that'll do it, yep.
Yeah, 10, 11 for the Signal Pests.
And a close game there, actually. Tyler Winn manages to get it. But what looked to be a blowout, Hawkins threatening very closely at the end of the game.
Yeah, he needed to do it that turn, and the Cranial Plating and also having the 2 black mana was huge.
All right, so Tyler Winn takes game 1 as we go ahead and look at the sideboard. We'll start with Eric Hawkins. Rather than read it off and say he has 14 different cards here, he is a 2 Court of Calling deck. All right, I know I like Kataki's War's Wage. Walk me through some of the other things.
Yeah, so we have a Fiend Hunter, which is kind of medium. It is an answer to Master of Ethereum. We have access to Orzhov Pontiff, which kills Signal Pests, Memnites, things of that nature. Reclamation Sage just comes into play, destroys an artifact on the way in, and Qasali Prey Mage, which we can sacrifice to destroy one, as well as Path to Exile, which is a clean answer to Master of Ethereum.
So he's just looking for removal for the most part.
Right, and not many of these are actually real 2-for-1s. Like the Reclamation Sage and the Orzhov Pontiff can take a card with them, though the bodies aren't very respectable on their own.
So they don't particularly matter here.
Right. They do give you some fodder to set up your Teysa combo. You know, they leave a body laying around.
Okay. So he'll be doing that, and I imagine some of his combo pieces coming out. I don't know if he really... You see Painter Servant, Blood Artist, Teysa. I don't know how much of that he wants in this matchup. Teysa actually seems fine.
Yeah, though the Painter Servants themselves, maybe they just come out in this matchup. They don't really do anything by changing the color of anything, and being a 1/3 is not very exciting.
Yeah, they do set up the infinite loop with Teysa, but maybe he doesn't have time for that.
Right, and if we're casting Court of Calling, we'd probably rather just find the infinite life combo over the infinite Teysa combo. It just takes more setup.
All right, over on Tyler Winn's side, a lot of his sideboard options: Thoughtseize, Spell Pierced, Etch Champion, Ancient Grudge, Pithing Needle, Graft Digger's Cage, Aether Grid, Whip Flare, Gut Shot, and Dismember.
Graft Digger's Cage is definitely a good one. Gut Shot to deal with a lot of the one-toughness creatures. Certainly Birds of Paradise out of Hawkins. Dismember as well as an interaction. Thoughtseize is a card in Affinity that generally, when I played the deck, I only brought it in against the most degenerate decks, but there is an argument for Thoughtseize just because Eric is likely to have a lot of cards that are very impactful against you.
Those of you just joining us, we're giving you coverage from Round 7 of the Modern Open here at the Louisville Open. Star City Games is going to travel to a couple more places on our way to the April Invitational in Columbus. So if you want to get a chance to join us, maybe get to the Invitational, qualify by being in the top 8. Next week, we'll be heading over to Philadelphia for our Legacy Open of the season. After that, we have 2 more events. In mid-March, there will be a Standard Open in Indianapolis, and then the Standard Open 2 weeks later in Baltimore as we make our way to the Modern Standard Hybrid Format Invitational in Columbus, where we will crown our first Invitational champion. Now, if you can show up to any of these tournaments, you'll receive the exclusive playmat for Season 1. That is the Kitchen Lynx playmat. Of course, Kitchen Finks in Eric Hawkins' deck, but I don't know if he has Kitchen Lynx in it. Those cats are just making a mess of the kitchen. You can get those with free entry to any Season 1 Open. by showing up at any of our SCG Open weekends.
Yeah, Hawkins actually has oofs in his kitchen, which, as we discussed earlier, is a much bigger problem. Speaking of big problems, I didn't mention that Winn does have the one copy of Whip Player in his sideboard, which can be quite problematic for Eric's deck. It destroys multiple creatures upon casting. It's a one-sided Pyroclasm that can do kind of a Plague Wind imitation in a matchup like this. So that one will be definitely coming in.
Yeah, against, especially when you see Lingering Souls on the other side, I have to think, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. If there is something like a Kitchen Finks in play, you only get one half of it, but, you know, a persistent Kitchen Finks is sometimes what you need to do. It prevents them from persisting it back when they actually set up their combo.
I think right. Tyler with a turn, was it? Yeah, a turn 5 kill there, even through some disruption.
Yeah, so Hawkins cast Collected Company, and that was his last turn, right? He died the turn after?
Yeah, so depending if he was play or draw, it's either turn 4 or 5 kill out of Affinity.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the line in Modern, right? If you're not doing that. I mean, as we saw, Hawkins had the potential to untap and go infinite.
You need to have action by turn 4 to be sure.
Yeah, Hawkins in game 1 had a pretty anemic start as well. Didn't do anything on turns 1 or 2.
And that's surprising. His entire deck is 2-drops.
He did end up with quite a bit more 3s with this particular build. The Tasas, of course, the 4 main deck Lingering Souls. So his build looks a bit slower than a lot of the stock Abzan Company decks.
Yeah, 7 1s. He has 14 2s.
Okay, so his number is quite high.
Yeah, between the two, I would imagine he'd have action earlier on in most matchups.
It's the kind of hand where I would imagine that it would have been a mulligan if he knew that Tyler was on Affinity.
Hawkins going down to 5 cards here.
Yikes. And Hawkins, he didn't have anything that was dramatically impactful against Affinity. You know, he does have the Kataki. That's kind of his big card he's looking for in the matchup, but he doesn't have any copies of Stony Silence. So the mulligans could really hurt him here.
Yeah, Kataki will forgive a lot of that.
Yes. The Court of Companies, Court of Callings and the Collected Companies, they help him find them.
Looks like he will keep on 5. He is on the play. And it'll just be a Windswept Teeth and a pass.
A foil Onslaught Windswept Teeth.
Very nice cards he's trotting out here.
Absolutely. Hawkins doesn't mess around. I will say, though, that the Antiquities Ornithopter from Tyler gets some major style points from me.
I don't know, it's not a foil Antiquities Ornithopter.
It sure isn't.
I'll go ahead and fetch up Godless Shrine on end step. Ornithopter, a much tamer start than what we saw last game from Tyler.
Absolutely.
For Eric, it will be another fetch land and a copy of Viscera Seer.
So he has that action on turn 2, but it's not the kind of action that he needs.
Well, it can be put. He can just naturally combo out Tyler. And Tyler, a lot of respect here. He'll end step dismember a Viscera Seer.
Yeah, he wasn't using his mana otherwise. Neville is gonna have to dismember something.
I think Eric's gonna scry 1 here. He's deciding whether or not he wants to fetch now or later.
I think that the correct play is to fetch first and then scry. You don't want to shuffle away something that you want to keep on top, and you also don't want to shock when you don't have to.
Well, it depends. I think it depends on whether or not you know what you're gonna play next turn. Most likely he should fetch.
Yeah. He gets a basic land, which is kind of interesting to me. Perhaps he's representing a dismember of his own or something like that. That could be a consideration.
I mean, covering enough standard, my first thought is, oh, well, he just has battle lands in his deck, you know. But he'll scry 1 off Viscera Seer. Has Painter Servant in hand, so he has kept those in.
Okay.
And the scry is to the top for Hawkins, so something he likes here. Steel Overseer is a play from Tyler. He'll pass. No swing. This is a slow start. Hawkins has a window.
It's possible it's just one Painter's Servant to keep the combo alive.
Eric will cast Lingering Souls. pass the turn. And now here's an Etched Champion from Tyler, an activation of Steel Overseer.
This is where things looking bad. Hawkins really wanted at Reclamation Sage on his last turn to deal with that Overseer. Now that Winn is untapped and started to activate it, that's going to run away really quickly.
Birds of Paradise and Flashback of Lingering Souls for Eric Hawkins. 4 1/1 flyers and a Birds of Paradise. Now he's going to just start taking damage off this Etched Champion. There's no way to stop that. He has to watch out for something like Cranial Plating. That would end the game very quickly here.
Right. Hawkins has a Gavany Township, and the Birds of Paradise marks his 4th mana source, so he's close to activating Township, but being behind 2 activations on the Overseer probably makes that not good enough.
Right, here's Cranial Plating and Equip. Looks Cranial Plating and Vault Scourge. Here's the Equip to Etched Champion. Just how many artifacts do we have here? Everybody, the Overseer ticks up. Etched Champion's a 4. 4/4 base. 6 artifacts in play. That's 10 unblockable damage.
That is over half of Eric's life total.
And even now, a Painter Servant plus Teysa would not be enough, as it couldn't exile the Etched Champion.
If you exile all of the other creatures, does Tyler? I don't believe that Tyler has a. He does have a Darksteel Citadel, does he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that plus.
Okay. So he has exactly. He has exactly Metalcraft. So you would need combo plus Reclamation Sage or Pride Mage to blow up the Cranial Plating.
It does appear that way. Yes. He's going to have to blow up the Cranial Plating, but I believe Tyler's last card is a 2nd Cranial Plating.
Yeah, I mean, he had lethal without it. The action is on Eric right now.
Eric's going to go ahead and cast a main phase Collected Company. And I don't know what would be enough here.
Yeah, step 1 is dealing with that Cranial Plating, but even then, the Etched Champion will become a 5 on Tyler's next turn because of the Overseer. That's a 2-turn clock one way or the other. The unknown Cranial Plating makes it a 1-turn clock.
And that will be the match. Tyler Winn, 2-0 defeats Eric Hawkins.
Yeah, Eric had seen enough there, and I can't really think of a combination of cards that really gets him in there.
Yeah, well, if there wasn't for the Etched Champion, the Teysa comp, because he has 4 white creatures from Lingering Souls, Teysa's Painter Servant would win it there for him.
Yeah, you do bring down the amount of damage you're taking next turn as well.
But on 5 cards, it didn't really feel like Eric was ever able to get the pieces of the puzzle together quickly.